Welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we're taking a look at trying to fix a Porter cable pancake air compressor. This is a 6-gallon air compressor. It's about 3.5 years old. Just for reference, as we start this video, this is a 2002 or C2002 Type 7 compressor, and that might be useful to you as we go through this video here. So I've been having troubles with the way that the valve has been operating, that as I adjust the regulator, air has been leaking out of here, and it's not actually been able to hit the cutoff on the air pump and stop, and it will maintain a constant air pressure coming out of the valves. Because of the air leakage, I've got to tighten the regulator down much farther than I should, and so it's either going to cause the air pressure to go up and up here, and I can't cap it. Some of my nailers have a max of 100 psi, and I only want to be running at about maybe 85 or 90 psi. But I've got no way to actually regulate that with this on board. So you either have to plug in an extra regulator to the side, and it's just annoying, and it's time to get this fixed. I've seen a handful of ways that you can fix this with some just backwoods methods, and I want to see if I can fix it right. And so the way that we're going to start with this is we're going to get out our tools, and we're going to start with a Torx T10 screwdriver to be able to remove this top cover plate here that has a tank and the regulator pressure gauges on it. And so with that off, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the knob here, the regular knob, and we're going to take this all the way off as well. A few extra turns, this will come the rest of the way off. Be ready to catch some parts as they come off the end. And so in here, we've got a spring, we've got a knob, and there's a little bit of grease and lubrication in there. And then we've got a cylinder here. In this case here, there's actually some metal filings on the side. And then if we look inside here, we've got a couple of key parts to the regulator that we're going to need to get by coming on the back side with a wrench to loosen up the valve on the back to be able to get this to be able to come out. So now we're going to use a wrench to be able to loosen that up to get that all out. So now I'm going to use an adjustable wrench to get back and loosen the bolt back up here. A 17mm wrench will also do the trick. And then once you get the back side out, you'll get an assembly that looks something like this, where you got the bolt, you've got a little plunger, you've got a spring here, and then there's another assembly here that may have to get knocked through. So I'm going to get an Allen wrench that's at 90 degrees. And then we'll get a little piston that comes out that looks something like this. And then with that out, you can see the regulator assembly there is now empty. And you can see there's a little moon-shaped valve on the side that allows for the change in air pressure. And what we need to do is now replace this with some correct parts. Let's look this over. I can see perhaps some moisture got in here. It's definitely a little greasy, but that should be good for keeping it lubricated. It's a good sign. But I've got a feeling when I look at this that this spring here just was not as springy as it should be coming out of this back part here. So I think that's probably the problem. As we keep going, we'll see if that's the issue. And now for the replacement parts. The first thing you need to know about the Porter cable is actually owned by DeWalt or Stanley Black & Decker as the parent. And so the part number here, this is a DeWalt D55155 compressor regulator repair kit. And so if you order this repair kit, which you can get off Amazon or direct from them with that part number, it's about a little more than 20 bucks or so. And so inside this repair kit here, you'll see that we'll have brand new replacement parts. We've got a whole bag of parts here. You can see in the assembly, the little brass part here is actually separate. We've got new rings, springs, no ring, and we have a set of instructions. And so the instructions here are going to help us guide us through the repair. as well as it gives you an important diagram that shows the order of the parts from the knob through the rest of the regulator control assembly, the bracket, what goes into the back on the little knob back there. Again, everything all lined up to work correctly. And so now it's just a matter of taking the parts that we get here in the bag and then assembling them into the right order so that it all, hopefully, will work again for me. It's easy to see with the reassembled part here, there's an extra O-ring and the spring comes out much farther. And we've got the regulator assembly, and then this goes with an O-ring. Now for reassembly, we've got our whole kit here in the back. You'll notice how this is actually much more agile than the one that we took out. We got our O-ring on it. So now we got to carefully work this back into the compressor from the back side. That's going to be the hardest part of this. You might even have to take this apart here to get this through. We'll have to make sure that it all comes through correctly. There, with that replaced in the back, we've got an O-ring here to go in and a seat all the way back. And then we've got this little valve here. And that should go forward. And then I've got the regulator valve here in the spring, which should just screw right on. And that'll cause that to go back. And now hopefully everything will work just right because that piston can move. The key detail when I'm looking at the post-mortem on the compressor, when I look at this mechanism off the back with the spring assembly, on the new one it was obvious how this actually could go back and forth to control the regulator pressure, but this is actually seized together. There's probably a chance if I could pull this apart that maybe I wouldn't need to have bought a new kit. But since I actually have the kit in place, I can go ahead and be a little destructive with this. Pull this out, and if I pull this out, I can see there's some corrosion in there. Well, this brass is starting to turn a little bit green. Must have been some water that got in there. Here's the spring. You can see there's some gunk in here. It's a little bit of grease. I probably could have cleaned this up with a wire brush and been back in business without buying a new kit. But I went ahead and bought the new kit anyway, that even when I guess I could clean this up here. So if you're having troubles and you don't want to buy the new kit, there's a chance you might be able to just take it apart, clean it up, put a couple drops of oil on it to lubricate it, and be fine as well. Just to be safe, I bought the new kit so I didn't take it apart and end up needing to order the parts anyway. But your mileage may vary when you take this apart, and you may need new rubber gaskets or O-rings if they've dried out and are cracked. So there's a variety of reasons, but your first glance here is you could actually just look at this and see if there's gunk that you could quickly replace on your own, and maybe you don't even need to order the parts. I've now tested this, and I've verified that it actually works correctly. I can adjust the regulator valve, and after this gets up to 150 psi, I can cap this wherever I want it appropriately, and it's working back the way it's supposed to. Had a little bit of trouble getting it all squared up, So then now, after this, I've confirmed that it's working correctly, I can go ahead and put my faceplate back on. This is really just more of a piece of trim than it is anything important. If you were so inclined, you could leave this off. But I might as well just go and put it back on there just for the sake of keeping it installed and looking nice. And now I've got my unit back together. After further analysis, it seems like I found a little bit of water leaking out of here, so I might have had some water in there that caused the parts to seize up. But with the new parts, that's fixed. Very easy to do. It should be obvious to say when you're doing this, make sure your tank is empty. You don't want pressure behind this here. Make sure it's also unplugged. And if you're having to actually replace this valve, it's also a good time to check and do a knock test on your tank to actually see if there's any parts of your tank that are structurally compromised. If you did get water in your tank, to make sure you don't have a tank that's actually going to blow up on you. So you want to avoid that. So just take a moment and check to see if you can feel any weak spots or anything that's going funny with your tank, and give it a good thorough inspection, because if your valve's bad, there's a chance your tank might be bad too. I'm lucky my tank's okay. And so this is a relatively quick fix for under 20, or maybe about 20 bucks, and a couple tools. The most awkward of all was just getting to the Torx wrench here, the T10 size Torx screwdriver. I needed for that, but I already had that anyway with my Torx screwdriver set, so that's easy. And now my compressor is back in business. I don't know if I'd completely call it a maintenance-free pump. I guess the pump was fine. It's just a regulator that went bad. I know this is actually a common problem on these, so I hope you found this useful. If you're having the same problems that I did, and have a great day. Bye.